Hey my friends, welcome back to the kitchen here at Markelly Farm. I have some leftover pork meat from the chili we cooked the other day that I need to do something with. So I thought it was a good time to make some homemade Spam. If you've never had Spam before, we'll show you what it is. If you had it and you really were interested on what goes in it, we can tell you that and the origins and all that, so stick around. Now, I'm not a huge fan of just the regular Spam in the can at the store, but I've been to Hawaii and they have like 15 or 20 different flavors of Spam, and I don't know why they don't offer them in the stores here because some of those flavors were really good, but just the original can flavored Spam sometimes smells like an old slaughterhouse to me. It's kind of weird, but my dad really enjoyed it. Now, the word Spam comes from the combination of two words, spiced and ham. So that you take the SP off of spiced and the AM off of ham, it became Spam. Now, during World War II, the canned meat was very popular because it was shelf stable and you could ship a ton of it to the soldiers and stuff. And you could literally eat it right out of the can. It was pre-cooked, but a lot of people cooked it, fried it, did whatever. Now, Spam came very popular in Hawaii during World War II because all the GIs had it and they would trade it for other things. So the locals would end up with these cans of Spam and they grew to like the stuff. Some of the locals referred to Spam, they thought it was an acronym for Specially Processed American Meat, which that's not the case. That's not why the company came up with that name, but that's what people started calling it. So it became very popular in Hawaii, and they've adapted it since then. So many different flavors. They even have a linguiça flavor of Spam. So you can go crazy with these flavors. They have all kinds. When I went to Hawaii, my suitcase was very heavy on the way home because I brought like one of every flavor of Spam. It was really cool. Half of the aisle in the store was basically different flavors of Spam. So without me being too much of a jabberjaw, we're going to get started here. So we are starting with 3 pounds of pretty lean pork. We're using our KitchenAid grinder. If you don't have a grinder, you can use a food processor. Just throw all your meat in there and make it, not completely emulsified, but just chop it up real good. And we're using our coarse plate in here, so it's a little more coarse than normal. So we've got some texture to our meat. So let's get this ground up. Now, if you haven't seen us grind meat before, we have a little trick. We just did it the other day on another video, but in case you didn't watch that, you see that there's meat left in our grinder. A good pro trick for that is get you some ice cubes, run some ice cubes through to push your meat out. That's all it takes. So we've got our ground pork, so we're going to get our dry spices together, and they're pretty simple. First thing is 2.5 tablespoons of cornstarch, which will act as kind of a binder when it mixes with the juices as this sausage cooks. I call it sausage. Now the next thing is the same amount of sugar, 2.5 tablespoons of sugar. 2.5, there we go. We're going to use 1.5 tablespoons of Morton's Tender Quick. It is a cure, but it's not the same as curing salt. It's not as potent. That right there. Now that Tender Quick you should be able to find in your aisle at the store next to your salt. So we're going to go with 1 tablespoon of just kosher salt and 1 teaspoon of garlic powder or granulated garlic. 1 teaspoon is 1/3 of a tablespoon. We're going to mix our dry mixture all together, trying to get out any lumps and incorporate everything very well so we have a good distribution of everything. And then we're going to add 3 ounces of ice water. And it's not all going to dissolve, but it'll all get wet and it'll mix together a lot better with the meat. Now this is a basic recipe. You could add any flavors you want to this, whatever your heart desires. I told you there's many flavors of Spam commercially, especially in Hawaii. But I did find that if you go online, you can, like Amazon, you can order a sample pack of different flavors of Spam. So you can get it in here in the U.S., but not in your grocery store generally. So we've got a good mix on that. Sorry about having my hand in the way. I've been trying to work on that. Watching all the videos, my hand's always in the way. So in goes our mixture into our meat. Now our little trick, if you remember, all the spices left in your mixing pan. Just get some meat in there and it helps get it all out of there. So we've got the vast majority of everything out of there. So we're going to get in here with our hands and really give this meat a good mix. You could do it in the KitchenAid with like the flat beater or the dough hook, but we're just going to give it a good mixture with our hands. You can see as we mix our meat mixture, the proteins are starting to break down a little bit. It's becoming kind of a slurry, and that's what you're looking for. So it's going to come together really well as it cooks. Alright, time to put our meat in a container. Now if we wanted to, we could do it in our pressed meat container, like our lunch meat container like this. But we're going to do it in loaf pans so we can show you don't need any specialized equipment. And plus this is going to come out with your standard Spam form in kind of a rectangular form. So we've got 2 like 3x6 loaf pans, and I'm just going to spread this evenly between the 2. We'll have about 1.5 pounds in each one. Hopefully it all fits. Looks like it will. But you want to press it down and get every bit of air out of it you can. You don't want any air pockets because that doesn't make for a good product. You want it nice and tight in those pans. Try to press out all the air that you can. Now this is obviously going to taste a lot better than your regular Spam in the store that we talked about earlier, because you're using better ingredients. I think they tend to use pieces and parts of the pork that aren't necessarily the preferred ones because they use those for obviously making pork chops and stuff like that, where we use very good cuts of meat for this. So, and then it's all nice fresh spices, and there's no weird ingredients like on the label of the store-bought stuff. You'll read all the weird ingredients that don't need to be in there. I don't know why here in the United States they use so many weird ingredients. You look at stuff from other countries and it just has the basic ingredients in it. But I guess I do know why they use it, because of preservation. The longer stuff sits on the shelf without going bad, the less money you lose. Because when stuff goes bad, they got to throw it away. So that's their goal, but it's not necessarily the best thing for us to consume. But that's not always their priority, is to make things good for you. Make it good for them, meaning making the most money they can make off the product. So we'll get this packed on in here. We've got our oven preheating to 300 degrees. And then we're going to cover these with foil. Got our meat nicely nestled into our pan. So we're going to cover these pretty tightly with aluminum foil. And the reason you don't want to cook them uncovered is because you don't want the moisture to evaporate out of them. And you don't necessarily want the tops of them to brown either. Okay, now that we have them wrapped, we've got a 9 by 13 baking dish that we're going to tuck them into here. And we're using a baking dish because we want to put water around our pan. We want to come up to about an inch or so below the top of the pan, maybe half full, and that will help create a nice even heat when we throw this in the oven. But I'm not going to put the water in here until I get it on the oven rack, because moving this thing around with water in it, I don't want to be spilling it. Now I've got this fancy meat thermometer that wire just goes into the oven. I've got the probe in one of our loaves in there. So we want to cook this thing to about 155 degrees. So if you don't have one of these, you can use an instant read thermometer. Just probe it every now and then. But it's going to take over an hour probably. But we'll let you know exactly how long it takes to get there. Thermometer's got this little remote deal that hangs around your neck. Makes you look like the meat coach. Okay, our thermometer just went off. We are up to temperature. So out we come. Can remove our probe here. See if I can get these out. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to loosen this foil up a little bit. We want it so it'll go down inside the pan like that. And we'll do both of these. Now that we've got that, we're going to put one pan on top of the other. And for the next hour or so, we're going to come by like every 10 minutes and swap these top to bottom, because we want a little pressure on them as they're cooling. That'll hold everything down in that liquid and make a lot better loaf. Those loaves took right at an hour and a half to come up to 155. So ovens may vary, so just keep an eye on yours. Alright, it's been an hour. The last couple of swaps we did, I just put my cast iron cornbread maker on the top so we had a little more weight. So we're going to take these down now and put them in the downstairs refrigerator till tonight, and then we'll unmold them. Alright folks, it's nighttime. Our Spam is done. We took it out of the mold. We just went down the side of the mold with a knife. So normally a can of Spam would probably be about that big, but that's too much to eat in one sitting. So we're probably going to go with probably 3 portions out of this one loaf. About like that. Came out beautifully. Look at our Spam. So we'll get some vacuum seal bags and we'll get this sealed up, and we'll do the same thing with our other one. There's our 6 packages of Spam. We're going to get those down into the freezer. Of course, we saved a piece back to use as a taster. Now, my dad used to love taking this stuff like deer hunting and on little trips like that, because it was shelf stable and it didn't need to be refrigerated, because we didn't want to carry big ice chests around and have to keep buying ice to keep things cold. So it worked very well for that. Now, this product that we made is not shelf stable, but if you wanted to make a shelf stable product like you buy in the store, here's what you would do. You would take like a half-pint jar like this, and you would pack your meat into this jar, just like we packed it into those loaf pans. Put your lid and your rings on. These are designed to work with heat. And then put this in your baking dish in that water, just like we did with the loaves. And you don't have to cover them in foil because you got the lids. And cook them for the same amount of time, about an hour and a half at 300 degrees. And then take these out and cool them. The jars will seal. And then you'll have a shelf-stable meat product that you can take. Just pop it out of the jar. It's already in rounds. You can just slice it up. Fry it right into your skillet. Now, my crazy uncle used to tease us kids all the time that Spam was made from some kind of weird Spam animal. So he would have us going on that. Now, remember, our Spam that we made is made with very good cuts of meat. If you've got meat sitting around in your freezer that's not getting used and maybe getting a little older, this is a good process to use up that meat. Pull that meat out of the fridge or the freezer and make something out of it. Now, Kelly said she'd be a taste tester for me. Tell them what you think of store-bought Spam.
It's disgusting.
So I want her to try my homemade Spam because she's never had it before. I cooked up a little bit in the pan for her. It's just pressed ham basically is all it is. Does it remind you of the store-bought Spam?
No. Still wouldn't be a favorite of mine.
No?
Mm-mm.
Is it the texture that you don't like?
Probably.
But you already said you wanted some musubi made with it.
Yeah, because then you can't taste it.
Then I taste that nasty seaweed.
No, that's the good part.
Well, let's see what my more refined palate thinks of my homemade Spam.
Fine, you have no taste buds.
I think it's fantastic. That's good. Tastes like a spiced ham. I can't wait for some Spam and eggs. That's going to be really good. We're in a breakfast burrito. Wow, look out. Well, all right, folks. Thanks for traveling down the Spam road with me today. It was a fun project. I've got another thing I need to do before tomorrow and before I go to bed, so we need to get that done. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come back and see us here at the farm.
They eat so much of this stuff, Spam had to add a bunch of flavors just to spice things up. Like hot and spicy. Feel like Japanese? How about teriyaki? Feeling worldly? Portuguese sausage. Spam. For all you cowboys out there, hickory smoked. Working on that beach bod? Try low sodium or Spam light. Or how about bacon and eggs? The Spam way. Feel like Filipino? There's always tocino. Looking for more calcium in your diet? Try Spam with cheese. You afraid of vampires? Try garlic. Get out of my house, Dracula. How about fun size Spam? And black pepper. Have Turkey Day the Spam way. Gobble gobble. Taco Tuesdays? There's always chorizo and jalapeno. Ay, ay, ay! Can't decide? Just get them all.